Today on the show, are you doing anything to end racism when you break into somebody's home and threaten their wife and kids? One group of folks thinks you are.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD.
So I have to tell you, I fail to see how this does anyone any good. I fail to see how this moves any kind of humanity forward. I fail to see how this does anything to strengthen your case when you are taking a stand against something, when you act like this. Let me back up a little bit. Here's the deal. I don't know if you caught it or not. And, you know, what with everything that's been happening over the last couple of days, this is, well, maybe slipping through the cracks a little bit. But we've talked about this a lot on the show. And look, this group calls itself Smash Racism. And smashing racism sounds like a great idea. Sounds like a fantastic idea. Just like Antifa sounds like a great idea. We like to smash racism. We're anti-fascist. Great in principle. In practice, when you do stuff like this, it sets everything back so far. This is why Martin Luther King had a staunch policy of nonviolence. It's understandable to want to throat punch someone. It's understandable to want to threaten someone when they're a vile person. If someone is a fascist or a racist, it's understandable to want to do this sort of thing. But it does nobody any good when you do this sort of thing, especially over something like a TV show you don't like. Again, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but the group's called Smash Racism DC. And they broke Tucker Carlson's door. And apparently in a security video, you can hear them say that they had a pipe bomb. This is the same bunch of Antifa types that confronted Ted Cruz and his wife at that restaurant in D.C. They showed up at Tucker Carlson's home to threaten him and intimidate him. Turns out, I don't think he was even there. Pretty sure his wife was home alone. So she hid in a pantry and called the police. The group's called Smash Racism DC. They broke Carlson's door, and one person was heard on a security camera, piece of security camera footage saying that they had a pipe bomb. The mob chanted, "Tucker Carlson, we will fight. We know where you sleep at night," outside of his home. Carlson said, "Here's the problem. I have 4 children. I never thought twice about leaving them home alone, but this is the reaction because this group doesn't like my TV show." Now, I don't watch a ton of television news. I don't watch a bunch of Fox News. I don't think I'm learning anything from CNN or Fox News. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know I kind of tend to try and go outside of America to get my news. Only because, here's the thing. If you get American news from the BBC, guess what? They've got their own problems. They've got Brexit going on. They've got their own issues. So they don't tend to editorialize as much as American news sources. There's not as much of an angle. I mean, it's impossible to not have an angle and be involved in the news in the world today. But because they've got other more British fish to fry, when you go to the BBC or someone else, you tend to get fact-based stuff. You don't have to wade through as much that could be subject to interpretation. There's not as much of a preponderance on alternative facts when you get your news from outside of the country. Because, like I said, they got other things going on. So I don't watch Tucker Carlson. I don't think I've ever sat through an episode of his show. I don't really know much about him or what he's like. I understand that if you're listening and you fall down on the left of the situation, you might have a very big problem with some of the things he said and some of the things he's done. But zoom out for a second. Join me as a non-watcher of this sort of stuff. Zoom out for a second and recognize that this guy has a TV show. And some people who want to smash racism, some people who are anti-fascist, decided to break into his home and threaten his wife and kids with a pipe bomb. If you're like me, when you hear about that situation, let's remove people's agendas from it. If you hear about one group of folks breaking into someone else's home and threatening them with a pipe bomb, what do you think of that person? What do you think of the cause that they're trying to affect? Are you going to listen to them? Do they seem reasonable? No. After I got a pipe bomb and I know where you sleep at night, you're not apt to listen to too much more of what they have to say. For a group of folks that parades as anti-fascist, these are the acts of freaking stormtroopers. What the hell is going on? In what universe does this seem like a good idea that's going to bring people together? I just don't understand it. And I have to imagine that these folks are not really that interested in smashing racism. This is not going to build good feeling or understanding. This is going to widen divides. This is going to make people who are prejudiced or racist out of fear more afraid and more prejudiced. Now, racism is not forgivable. Let's get that out of the way right now. Inequality or racism of any kind has no place in America. But this I have to imagine, is only going to make things worse. There's some more details I'll fill you in on for a second. But like I said, I always go back to the person, the words of the person who made the most measurable amount of change happen in the world of equality and civil rights, Martin Luther King, who had such a staunch policy of nonviolence. Would he condone this? Absolutely not.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So there you have it. I understand anger. I understand righteous indignation. I understand rage. I understand the desire to throat punch someone because they're racist. I know what turns Mr. Hand into Mr. Fist. But ultimately, I have always and will always believe in a staunch policy of nonviolence. Fighting, arguments, things of that nature, screaming and yelling, they don't tend to make you a lot of friends. I understand you can't get bees with honey in every situation. I understand that you can't be completely passive in every situation. But I don't think anything has ever been solved, really solved, by screaming and yelling. I definitely don't think anything has ever been solved by breaking someone's door down and threatening their wife and kids with a pipe bomb. This is not going to get people on your side. Or at least, God, I hope it's not going to get people on your side. If there's people like, yeah, right on, the way they threatened that defenseless woman and 4 children with a pipe bomb. Yeah. Suck it, Carlson. Like, anybody that feels that way, we're on radically different pages. And by the way, if we are on radically different pages like that, I would love to hear from you because I just want to know. I want to know how that happens. I'll never agree with it, but I'd be curious to understand how it happens. At ADSXE is where you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email me, ad@iheartradio.com. If you're just joining us, the deal is this. The same Antifa group of thugs that confronted Ted Cruz and his wife at the D.C. restaurant showed up at the home of Tucker Carlson to threaten him and intimidate him. He wasn't there. His wife was home alone. She hid in the pantry. She called the police. The group's called Smash Racism DC. They broke Carlson's door, and one person mentioned they had a pipe bomb, which he said was picked up on his security video. They chanted, "Tucker Carlson, we will fight. We know where you sleep at night," outside of his home. And he said, "Here's the problem. I have 4 kids. I never thought twice about leaving them home alone. But this is the reaction because this group doesn't like my TV show." And it gets less cool. The group posted Tucker Carlson's address on Twitter along with Neil Patel's, who co-founded the Daily Caller with him. Twitter, a little slow on the uptake. They didn't suspend the group's account until a few members of the conservative media asked why the posts were still up, despite the clear violation of the site's rules. So, yeah. Not something that's going to help. Not something that's going to get any divides to shrink. Not something that I could imagine anyone who indulges this sort of behavior really thinks is going to make things better. Which makes me wonder, are they looking to make things better? Are they looking to actually smash racism, end racism, bring about a new dawn of equality? Or are they just angry? Like I said, curious to know what you think. At ADSXE is where you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Now this I bring up because it's a matter of stark contrast. Alyssa Milano has gone on the record saying she's not going to be speaking at the next Women's March. She said that the organizers of the Women's March, Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory, defend bigotry and anti-Semitism because of the relationship with Louis Farrakhan. While the media has basically ignored that side of the Women's March organizers. It becomes this weird thing. It becomes this weird thing where you go, a march for women, great, awesome. An expression of solidarity for a group of people that have not had an easy way to go, that have been persecuted, that have been denied equality. Sounds like a good idea. But people are tripping all over themselves to, I guess, virtue signal or do something that makes them feel better about a situation, that they're a little slow on the uptake. In an interview with The Advocate, Alyssa Milano, who is a staunch liberal and who is all about the rights of others and all about ridding the world of injustice and inequality, as any good person should be, no matter what side of the political fence they fall down on. But in an interview with The Advocate, a gay community magazine, Alyssa Milano condemned the Women's March organizers, Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory, for their support of Louis Farrakhan. Now, in case, for some reason, you haven't caught this, Louis Farrakhan, leader of the Nation of Islam, has, on the regular, made misogynistic, homophobic, and anti-Semitic comments. And Milano, whether you agree with her politics or not, whether you're one of our listeners that falls down on the right or the left, Milano said something that I like a lot. She said, anytime there is any bigotry or anti-Semitism in that respect, it needs to be called out and addressed. I'm disappointed in the leadership of the Women's March. They haven't done it adequately. And you know what? I bring this up because I think it serves as a great example. People want to be dedicated to something. People want to be hard line on something. We live in a world of extremes. We've talked about this a lot on this show. Extremism is rife all around the world. Big part of it is because we're coming out of one of the biggest financial downturns in modern history. If you look back at history, you'll always find that after everybody's broke, people get mad and people get extreme and people seek to blame others. So people are very hardline and inflexible in their beliefs. But I appreciate Alyssa Milano doing what's right. Because this easily translates into the headline, Alyssa Milano no longer supports the Women's March. Yeah. But the deal is this. Back in January, Milano was one of the headline speakers at the Women's March. She was leading the charge for the Women's March. And understandably so. Asked if she would speak at the march again, Milano said she would not, so long as Sarsour and Mallory were at the helm. They're too cozy with someone who is a vocal anti-Semite, with someone who is vocally homophobic, with someone who is vocally misogynistic. Somehow these folks that are at the helm of the Women's March seem to be able to get along just fine with someone who, well, does not seem to have women's best interests at heart. And I admire the fact that she was willing to change course, change direction. Didn't need to double down. Recognize that she could still be supportive of women, even if she wasn't aligned with something called Women's March. These names are misleading. Smash racism, anti-fascist, Women's March, all sound freaking great on paper when you just look at the words. But when you dig a little deeper, chances are, if you're someone who really does believe in equality, you're going to come across a major conflict. And so many people are so quick to just double down. There's no conflict there. There's no conflict there. Everything's okay. Everybody who says it's not okay is wrong. Alyssa Milano, she had the tenacity and the strength of character to walk it back and say, no, sorry. I would say no at this point, quote unquote. It's unfortunate that none of them have come forward against him at this point, or even given a really good reason why they should support them. There you go. Life lesson from Alyssa Milano. Who knew?
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
Oh, man. It seems like the civil war on the left has begun early. The moment Beto lost to Ted Cruz, people were tweeting, Beto 2020. Beto for president. That's cool. He didn't beat Ted Cruz. That frees him up to run for president in 2020. We're all for this. We're all in. Beto's our guy. And look, this idea, maybe you're all for it, maybe you're not. But it's picking up a whole lot of steam very quickly. And that does not sit well with another guy who sees himself as president of these United States of America, the one-time lawyer for porn star Stormy Daniels, Michael Avenatti. See what he did? He came out swinging at Beto, saying that Democrats that preach puppies and daisies are losing and fighters are winning. And it totally makes sense Avenatti fancies himself as president of these United States of America. He sees himself as the only person who's rough and tough enough to take on the Donald Trumps of this world. Donald Trump won by changing the game, changing the playing field, making the game of the presidential election a game played on his terms, on his turf. People on the left and the right fell before him because they were politicians. We talk about this all the time, but all that, no, wrong, nasty woman, lying Ted, little Marco, crooked Hillary, all that sort of stuff, well, it was a debasement of our process, to be sure. But it also created a game that none of his competition on the left or the right could play. Lion Ted had to go. I'm not saying he's Lion Ted, but that was what he was branded by Trump. I think the person that took the biggest swing at Trump playing his own game was probably Marco Rubio. We've talked about this on the show a lot. He was the guy that suggested President Trump was not working with the most substantial of packages based on the size of his hands. It was a valiant effort, but it was shut down quickly. And, well, calling him Little Marco, that made it go away. So Avenatti sees himself as the only person that can get down on the field and play in a Donald Trumpian, hard-headed, smash-mouth sort of way, if that makes sense. But, hold on a second. The Avenatti for president situation was picking up a little bit of steam. He was having closed-door meetings. He was talking an awful lot about the idea that he could beat Donald Trump at Donald Trump's game. And then here comes Beto O'Rourke, who, if you're a Democrat hoping to be president of these United States of America, sucked up a lot of the oxygen in the room. So yeah, there's drama. There's an early start to the Civil War on the left with regard to who's going to be the presidential hopeful in the year 2020. Michael Avenatti has come out swinging at Beto, saying that Democrats that preach puppies and daisies are losing and the fighters are winning. Now, I like puppies, daisies, and, civil discourse. But no doubt, Avenatti sees Beto as his biggest threat because Avenatti has said that only a white male can take out Trump in 2020. Yeah. I know, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous and crazy and wrong because, it is. But Avenatti, in, I guess, an attempt to hold on to his market share, unless it turns out he was misquoted, said the following words, quote unquote, in Time magazine. He said that when you have a white male making the arguments, they carry more weight. There you go. Now, I know it's out of context, and there might be something that we're missing here. But I don't like hearing someone saying that only a white male can be president because white males carry more weight. As we discussed earlier in the show, staunch supporter of equality in this country. Staunch supporter of identities not entering into politics. Care about who can do the best job. Don't care what their color of skin is. Don't care who they love. Don't care what sort of situation they've got going on south of the equator. Do care about their genuine desire to advocate for the people of America when it comes to picking our leaders, electing our politicians. So to have him go, a white male is necessary to take out Trump in 2020 doesn't sit well with me. But yeah, he told Time magazine, Michael Avenatti, who's come out swinging at Beto O'Rourke, told Time magazine that when you have a white male making the arguments, they carry more weight. The guy who is, let's remind ourselves, a bankruptcy attorney, tweeted, "The results confirm what I have been advocating. Those Dems that preach puppies and daisies are losing and the fighters are winning." There is only one path to success in 2020, and it's not turning the other cheek. When they go low, we hit harder. Hashtag fire with fire. Hashtag buckle up. He followed up by saying that no career politician is going to beat Trump in 2020. Now, let's zoom out again for a momentito, shall we? Let's talk about Beto and Cruz. Beto and Cruz should not have been a close race. This is Texas we're talking about. So the fact that Beto, and by the way, I'm removing my political allegiances from this whole situation. Not that I really have any. Like I said, I don't care who you are. I just care about your ability to advocate for the people of America. Specifically, the people of America you serve, whether it's at a congressional level, or you're a senator, or you're president of these United States of America, or you're a county clerk, or you're a mayor of a town. I care about you and your genuine desire and ability to serve the people that elected you. That's what I care about. Don't care about people's identities. But let's remove partisanship from the situation and take a look at what happened with Cruz and Beto. The idea that a Democrat could come in to Texas and run that strong of a race. And I know, look, there's people that hate Beto. They're going to be like, well, he had all that funding from Hollywood. He had all that. Whatever. I'm just saying. It was neck and neck. And that's not a race that should have been neck and neck. There was incredibly impressive headway made, whether you love the guy or despise the guy. It should have been such a non-event. Of course, Ted Cruz was going to get reelected. Oh, snap. Who's this guy we've never heard of before? Oh, my gosh, he almost won. What the hell? That was almost a stunning upset. Good golly, Miss Molly. This guy's one to watch. So, I don't know. Avenatti saying you need to be a white male and saying that Beto didn't achieve much of anything in this election cycle. As an outside observer, which for the purpose of this look at the situation I am, I think he's wrong. Straight up wrong. He said no career politician is going to beat Trump in 2020, especially one that is not aggressive and can't go toe-to-toe with him. You can't beat Trump by preaching puppies and daisies. You have to inspire, but you must be aggressive and confront Trump on his lies and corruption. It's weird. It's weird to start these. It's weird to hear about these. I guess we could call them microaggressions, right? Little political microaggressions over the person who's going to get a shot at unseating Trump in 2020 for the Democrats. But for him to come out so hard against Beto O'Rourke in this situation tells me one thing and one thing only. He's genuinely terrified of him. He sees his market share dwindling. He sees that Beto sucked up all the oxygen in the room. And that little pipe dream he had of being the guy that snags himself the nomination and unseats Trump is looking like a distant memory awfully quickly. Of course, it's early days yet. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? But as someone who, generally speaking, is just here for the show, we're getting a show earlier than we expected.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you your musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving your musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a party better than me.
So today in the news, you and I will discuss the story that's, well, basically destroying football ratings left, right, and center. The idea that 8 horrifically bad NFL teams have already been eliminated from the playoffs. We'll discuss this in just a little bit, and we'll discuss why maybe people are less invested in football than ever before. But first, bearing in mind we're going to talk about football, let's you and I listen to the legendary George Carlin comparing and contrasting football and baseball in this incredible time-honored bit.
Baseball is played on the diamond, in a park, the baseball park.
Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium.
Baseball begins in the spring, the season of new life.
Football begins in the fall when everything is dying. In football, you wear a helmet.
In baseball, you wear a cap.
Football is concerned with downs. What down is it?
Baseball is concerned with ups. Who's up? Are you up? I'm not up. He's up.
In football, you receive a penalty.
In baseball, you make an error.
Whoops.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of historical precedent being set here, only because we're 53% through the NFL season, and, well, an awful lot of the 32 NFL teams have already been effectively eliminated from the playoffs. We'll get into the full story in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's check out the rest of Carlin.
Football has hitting, clipping, spearing, blocking, piling on, late hitting, unnecessary roughness, and personal fouls.
Baseball has the sacrifice.
Football is played in any kind of weather. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, mud. Can't read the numbers on the field, can't read the yard markers, can't read the players' numbers. The struggle will continue.
In baseball, if it rains, we don't come out to play. I can't come out to play. It's raining out.
In football, the object is for the quarterback, otherwise known as the field general, to be on target with his aerial assault, riddling the defense by hitting his receivers with deadly accuracy, in spite of the blitz, even if he has to use the shotgun. With short bullet passes and long bombs, he marches his troops into enemy territory, balancing this aerial assault with a sustained ground attack which punches holes in the forward wall of the enemy's defensive line. In baseball, the object is to go home. And to be safe. I hope I'll be safe at home. Safe at home.
All right, we'll discuss which of the 32 NFL football teams have already, in a somewhat historical season, been effectively eliminated from the playoffs in just a little bit. Oh, right now, though, this is actually kind of interesting. I think, basically, NFL football has realized that there is a significant diminished interest in the postseason because, well, a lot of people have realized their beloved football team will be no part of it, and it's early days to be so uninvested in it. So now, did you see this? There's going to be a 3-day music festival leading into the Super Bowl. Yeah, Maroon 5 may have the halftime show, but they're not the only act performing at the Super Bowl in 2019. There's going to be a 3-day festival leading up to the game day in Atlanta. The Bud Light Super Bowl Music Festival goes down Thursday, January 31st, Saturday, February 2nd, and the game takes place, of course, on Sunday the 3rd. Day 1 is Ludacris, Migos, Lil Yachty, and a DJ set from Lil Jon. Aerosmith headlines Day 2. Bruno Mars and Cardi B will team up to headline Day 3. There's no word on the other acts yet, but the festival will also feature appearances by celebrities and athletes. Tickets go on sale, I think, tomorrow if you're into such things. If you happen to be in Atlanta, I would imagine it's probably significantly more interesting for you. I don't know. I do know this, though. We'll get into just why people are so completely uninvested in professional football this season in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's take a look at the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. You see that Shrek is getting a reboot. Yes, Shrek is getting a reboot. Or as our friends in Smash Mouth put it, yay, we can make car payments again. Louis C.K. did a stand-up show in Paris. Yeah, he couldn't have picked a better venue, only because in France, I believe that pulling your junk out in front of someone without their consent is considered to be a polite greeting. Justin Timberlake postponed 2 more concerts because his vocal cords are damaged. Yeah, Justin Timberlake postponed 2 concerts because his vocal cords are damaged. What exactly is going on? I think God just misheard our prayers and gave the wrong singer named Justin problem vocal cords. Wait for it. There it is. Gisele Bündchen, supermodel Gisele Bündchen, and wife of Tom Brady, has opened up a little bit about why she quit Victoria's Secret back in 2006. It's amazing, right? Like, did you realize she'd quit? I did not. She'll forever be emblazoned in our mind as a Victoria's Secret model, Gisele Bündchen. Actually, she comes from that era, right? That supermodel era where once you are so disarmingly beautiful, you no longer use your last name, you just Gisele. Like, it's Tom Brady and Gisele. Last name? No, she's Gisele. But anyways, yeah. Gisele said that she quit Victoria's Secret in 2006 because she was no longer comfortable walking the runways in a thong. That's why she gave it up. Well, there you have it. Hey, at least somebody in that family knows when it's time to quit. Attorney General Jeff Sessions resigned yesterday. This, of course, has been all over the news. Yes, Attorney General Jeff Sessions resigned yesterday. A lot of people say it's because Trump forced him to. A lot of people say, did he resign or was he fired? Was he asked to resign? Is that not the same as being fired? But yeah, here's the thing. I don't think Jeff Sessions resigned yesterday. I don't think Jeff Sessions resigned yesterday because Trump forced him to. I think it's because it's almost Christmas and he has to get back to the North Pole to help Santa Claus make the toys. The House Democrats will now be able to use subpoenas to investigate Donald Trump. I would imagine first on their list is investigating why Trump pronounces China like that. Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams held off on conceding a loss to see if a runoff election is possible. If you don't know what a runoff election is, I think it's a second election that you hold after your celebrity endorsers have run off. Michigan voted to legalize recreational marijuana. Yeah, I see you, Detroit. And it makes sense, too. Michigan residents plan to smoke pot to deal with the stress of rooting for the Detroit Lions. Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids made history by becoming the first Native American women elected to Congress. We talked about this on the show yesterday. But now, for them, the first Native American women elected to Congress comes a tough part. Trying to pretend that it is not super awkward when they receive knowing winks and constant fist bumps from Elizabeth Warren. Melania Trump spent $95,000 of government money, which is really our money, just so we're clear on this. Melania Trump spent $95,000 of government money on her one-day visit to Cairo. As a taxpayer, all I can say is, boy, that really stinks. See what I did there? Doctors are now saying llama blood can possibly beat the flu. Yeah, llama blood can help you beat the flu. The blood of a llama. How does it work? Well, I think sick people see you drinking llama blood and think, not going anywhere near that freak. All right. Let's you and I talk a little bit about why the football season has been so wildly disappointing for so many people. The NFL season is entering week 10 of 17, so we're 53% through, and already 8 teams have been effectively eliminated from the playoffs because they're so bad. That's 1/4 of the 32 teams overall. Effectively eliminated because mathematically it's still possible, like how it's mathematically possible for you to win the Powerball jackpot. Here are the 8 teams. The 1-7 Oakland Raiders, the 2-6 Arizona Cardinals, the 2-7 San Francisco 49ers, the 1-7 New York Giants, the 2-7 Buffalo Bills, the 2-6-1 Cleveland Browns, the 3-6 New York Jets, they got a 1% chance, and the 3-6 Denver Broncos with a 2% chance. Come on, baseball season.